Now we're going to start with trying to generate a good motivation with the refuge and bodhicitta, then a short kind of overview of what happened last night, and then we can try to do some practice of mindfulness on karma in terms of the Rinpoche's explanations. Rinpoche has been talking about coming down and doing walking meditation with us, so we can. He was suggesting that we try out some of that anyway, and particularly since we have the relics here, I think that will work. We'll try something. So spend a few moments thinking about why we're really here. Naturally, that kind of frame of mind that you put yourself into at the beginning of the retreat, when we're trying to develop as an intense and powerful a motivation as we can in order to make the whole of the 2 weeks a real pure Mahayana practice, and something which is really going to support and help in our own personal path to awakening. But that fades. So periodically we need to revitalize it, and it's helpful when your mind becomes a little bit anyway, the intensity goes. Think about the precious human life. Think about the suffering of sentient beings. Think about the fact that any moment we could die and then the whole thing's over. So please do that, then spend a few minutes thinking about how right at this moment we're still alive, we didn't die yet. Still alive, still have this precious human life. We've met with the Buddha's teachings, specifically the Mahayana teachings, even more uniquely and more difficult to happen. We've met with the Tantric teachings, even more difficult within the Tantric teachings. We've met with the Maha Anuttara Yoga Tantras, with which one can achieve full awakening in one lifetime, even without having to use any kind of life-prolonging practices, just in a short lifetime in these degenerate times. And even more difficult, we've met with Rinpoche's teachings, where he has explained how to use the Buddha's teachings, Buddha Shakyamuni's teachings, to achieve full awakening in an even shorter period of time, in 3 years. On top of that, I've met with a fully qualified guru who knows everything that I need to know, has every quality that I need from somebody that can guide me along that path. Because of that, I mustn't waste a second of this life. And this opportunity is not going to last much longer. In fact, it could finish this day. And remember, the advice of the gurus is to think, I am going to die today. When I die, I'm going to be born in the lower realms. There's no other way. I'm going to die today, but I don't know when. Therefore, I mustn't waste a moment. It really could happen. It does happen, doesn't it? When people die, it's always unexpected. So it's not like we're not going to die today because we're not expecting to. This could be the course where they say, oh yes, so and so, they looked well enough. Didn't turn up for the morning session. Then we went up to have a look. Cold. That's not supposed to be funny. What's funny about that? Wow. What a weird bunch. Unbelievable. And then think also, there are countless other sentient beings who've all been my kind mother, and most of them are experiencing such unbearable suffering. Every second that I waste is another second where all of those sentient beings have to carry on suffering. When even one of them having to suffer a second more is too much. But there are countless many of them. So I'm going to use the time that I have left without wasting a moment. Of course, trying to benefit them, but because there's not so much I can do at the moment, striving to achieve full awakening, because then I really will be able to benefit them. In order to achieve awakening, I need help. I need the help of the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. Who are no other than my Holy Guru. as they say sometimes, your guru is the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha that you meet face to face. And I need to entrust myself to that guru who is the embodiment of the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. So, keeping this in mind, then we can do the Sangyachana prayer, which if you don't know is on page 25. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma and the Supreme Assembly by my practice of giving and other perfections. May I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. Last night, Rinpoche quoted from the Dhammapada, where it says the mind. What was it? The mind is something. I've forgotten. The mind is the mind is a creator. Huh? Mind is principle. Was that the first thing? I thought it was something before that. That's what I was thinking. The mind is principle. The mind is something. The mind is principle. Did anybody get that written down? Huh? Sorry? Right. Yes. Phenomena are created by the mind. The mind is principle. The mind precedes action. All actions. When, just like when with a mind, when with a like a bad attitude, bad motivation, one speaks, then suffering will follow, like a cart following an ox, and then when with a virtuous like attitude, motivation, thought, one speaks, and then happiness will follow, like a shadow following the body. Thank you. So, based on that short verse, Rinpoche talked about, in the case of positive karma and negative or wholesome, unwholesome karma, skillful and unskillful karma, we have sometimes they say the 3 results, sometimes they say the 4 results. The result of full maturation or ripening result, which refers to birth in one of the 6, as one of the 6 types of sentient being. So from negative karma, the 3 lower realms. From the positive karma, the 3 fortunate realms. Then the result similar to the cause, where you have the action similar to the cause and the experience similar to the cause, and then the environmental result. And it seems like, so the main point is sort of like the practice that Rinpoche was introducing to us and encouraging us to do, was to be mindful of karma, in the sense of always recognizing whatever happens and whatever appears is the result of one's karma. So you find yourself, maybe like in general, you have a good situation, you have an environment that you might describe as a good one, like here at the moment, a clean environment, a pleasant environment. But even within this environment, you might find yourself in a situation where there's a bad smell or something looks dirty or whatever, and that's also the result of karma, the environmental result. It's the environment, it's out there, you know. So, because if we don't have that kind of awareness, then, because that awareness, the awareness that, you know, that's because of my karma, is the awareness that I did this. In a sense, it's my fault that this happened. It's not somebody else's fault. So if you don't have that thought, then the next thought that arises, the next thought that does arise after, you know, this unpleasant experience is, you know, it's somebody else's fault. So, you know, it's so easy to get angry and then create more karma. And Rinpoche is talking about how, you know, you want to stop that whole cycle, because, you know, if I blame it on the other person and retaliate, then they're going to have go back at me, and it escalates. And besides that, by reacting with anger, I'm creating more negative karma. Then if that makes the other person create, you know, do something, say something out of anger in retaliation to what I've said, then they're also, you know, creating the cause for more suffering. And each time you're creating the cause for suffering, as you're experiencing the results, because there are these 4 results, one of them is that you could describe as the tendency to repeat the action. So it's like when we create karma, there's this built-in mechanism for making it happen again and again and again, unendingly. And that's it really, isn't it? That was the teaching. In fact, it came up last year. There, Rinpoche talked about it in connection with Abhidhamma Kosha, or Vasubandhu's treasury of knowledge, where it says that the various worlds are produced from karma. Everything, this whole world and everything in it is a product of karma. And we had the argument, I guess some people will remember, because somebody mentioned His Holiness teaching that there are certain things, you know, like maybe a leaf falling from a tree somewhere. That's not a result of karma. I can't remember. So His Holiness, I think many people have heard of him saying that, or, you know, come across that idea, and it seems very reasonable. You know, you kind of find yourself thinking, well, in what way is a leaf falling the product of karma? It doesn't seem to affect anybody. And so here, I find it really quite amazing that Rinpoche, who's entirely, I mean, you know, just like there's nobody more devoted to His Holiness, and there's nobody who is more perfect in their practice of guru devotion. He's saying, yeah, but it can't be like that. It can't be like that. His Holiness was saying that to make us think. Because the thing is, if one leaf falling is not the result of karma, then, you know, what about 2 leaves falling, 3 leaves falling? And you end up, it just doesn't make sense. So the thing is, well, I mean, where would that take you? You know, like 100 leaves, 1,000 leaves, all the leaves falling at a certain, you know, during certain seasons, you know, during fall, is not the result of karma. You'd end up saying. And that doesn't make sense, because we know very well that that's part of our environment, isn't it? And we experience that, and that affects us. You know, people go to certain parts of the world just to see the leaves changing colour during fall. It's part of the environment. It's something beautiful, like in Bavaria and, of course, in England. Very beautiful. So, it's true. So, yeah, maybe His Holiness was saying that to make us think. So, the Abhidhamma Kosha verse, and also this verse, is saying everything comes from the mind. Everything comes from the mind, because depending upon what kind of state the mind is in, you get either the virtuous karma or the non-virtuous karma, and as a result of that, you get the various types of future life, the various types of experience, even when that life is over and you're born as a human being, and also you got the result of the environment. And so Rinpoche went into a lot of detail, and I couldn't keep up with the detail personally. If you're interested, and I think it's really quite there's something quite special about seeing how different environments are the results of different negative karmas. Just like when you read the Wheel of Sharp Weapons, and it talks about when this happens, it's a result of this kind of karma that you've created in past lives. I guess this, I heard Dhammarakshita sort of, the author of the Wheel of Sharp Weapons, drew all of these ideas from the sutras. When this happens, it's because of this kind of karma. When it's this kind of karma, so on and so on. So anyway, so they're both bringing you to the same conclusion, which is that everything that appears to you and everything that happens to you is the result of karma. So now, doing practicing mindfulness of karma along these lines. Let's say if you're just sitting there, or whether maybe you're walking around. I mean, of course, you could be sitting there and just thinking about this and finding it, analyzing it and trying to find out whether it makes sense to you, and if it doesn't make sense, where and why, that kind of thing. And you could be doing the same when you're walking around, if you're going to do a walking meditation. But I think it's maybe more to do with just being looking around and being aware that what's happening to you right now is the result of karma. So particularly I think the environmental result, and Rinpoche did put a lot of emphasis on that, because then you can simply just look around and just be aware there's this appearance at the moment, which is the result of which is the environmental result of positive karma. And maybe you look around and you see something that's not so pleasant, and then this is the result from negative karma. And just maybe reflecting on the question, how else could it be? What else could account for the fact that at this moment I'm in an environment which is so agreeable, which I'm enjoying? What does account for the fact that, just it can happen so easily, in a space of moments, suddenly you're somewhere where it's really unpleasant. And at the same time, if you're in terms of sounds, well, if we're sitting here and walking around, you don't hear so much. So, like the mindfulness of karma in terms of the sounds that. No, let me think again. Okay, there are sounds going on which are maybe agreeable if you're sitting there and you're listening to the birds singing and so on. Maybe even hearing some nice music in the distance. I mean, up here you don't hear music, but I'm thinking also about how one can practice it elsewhere. So you hear that and it's nice. What's that? That's the result of karma. Maybe you hear some really ugly music. It might be nice for other people, but for your mind it's just kind of like what do you call it? I feel like saying a racket, but I don't know if that makes sense to you. It's just noise, just really grates, So that's also karma. So just kind of like getting at the appearances and experiences immediately with the awareness of karma, instead of allowing things to build up, so that you're like, you hear that unpleasant noise. So you've kind of like, you feel like you want to go and yell at people, and just, if you could get away with it, you wouldn't mind going in there and just smashing the sound books that they're using, that kind of thing. It's the kind of thing we visualize doing. So instead, like immediately, because with mindfulness there's always this idea, you're sort of like present and aware of things going on as they're going on. I mean, I know mindfulness can mean other things, but I think it's this whole, we're talking about doing mindfulness practices, and sometimes I think it's like, we're aware that there are these people who do their mindfulness practices, and it's sort of being aware of every movement, and being aware of every thought as it arises, and aware of, your foot lifting and going down. And I've never done that, but that kind of thing. So it's like, not allowing, this is just how it looks to me, not having done it, I don't know, but it's how it looks. You're not allowing your mind to just sort of go kind of randomly, kind of chaotically here and there. You're just keeping the focus on the present moment and what's going on in the present moment. So it's similar to that, you see. You're keeping your mind on the present moment in terms of what's appearing. So kind of like the environment and how you're experiencing that in terms of the sensation that that's causing. So certain sounds you experience as pleasant, certain sounds you experience as unpleasant. So if it's unpleasant, it's the result of karma. So being aware that as you're experiencing that as pleasant, never mind about thinking about it and what you think about it, just being aware that that sensation is the result of karma. If it's a pleasant sensation, that there's a sound that gives you this pleasant sensation, this is the result of virtuous karma. If it's a sound that's giving you this unpleasant sensation, it's the result of negative karma. And likewise with smells, whatever smell you're sensing at the moment, they could, a lot of the time there doesn't seem to be any kind of smell in particular, but there are unpleasant smells that we have to deal with. So as they arise, being aware, this is none other or nothing other than the result of my karma. This is unpleasant, so you're aware of this unpleasant sensation. An unpleasant, what would they call it, olfactory sensation. So if it's unpleasant, it's the result of my karma. So just being aware of everything as it arises, as it appears to your senses and to your mind, as the result of karma. And you might also be sitting there and not particularly feeling anything physically. Quite a lot of the time when you're not thinking about it, you don't notice so much. If you start being aware of your body and how it feels somehow, from top to toe kind of thing, you might become aware that there's certain parts of your body where there's quite a nice feeling, certain parts of it where it's quite painful. So, like looking at it straight away as the result of karma. So they call, I think that I was thinking this is quite useful. They talk about, so we've got, if we talk about right view, or Jidimba Yanda Bidawa, so correct view, right? Correct view. The three principal aspects of the path. What do you normally call the third one? Huh? Correct view. They usually call it correct view. Yanda Bidawa. So correct view. So we're talking about the realization of emptiness, right? So then they talk about, I guess, the understanding of karma. They call the worldly correct view. So it's like the correct view for a worldly person, and worldly here doesn't mean like, we say so-and-so is worldly, samsaric kind of thing. Worldly in the sense of somebody who hasn't realized emptiness. So somebody who's realized emptiness, you can see everything in terms of emptiness. And of course, the insight into emptiness is the most powerful antidote to all of the afflictive emotions. So the unique thing about the insight into emptiness is it works for everything. It's like it's applicable to everything. What I mean is, they talk about specific antidotes to specific delusions. Meditation on love as the antidote to anger. Meditating on repulsiveness as the antidote to attachment, right? That kind of thing. So those antidotes, they sort of they have this immediate relevance to what they're supposed to be the antidote to, because with when you're anger, there's this sense of dislike. So the love is this feeling of liking, and with the attachment, you're thinking the thing is really nice and beautiful. So the repulsiveness is seeing it as being unclean. So they're sort of opposite. They work together as the delusion and remedy from that point of view. But meditation on love isn't so relevant for attachment, and meditation on repulsiveness isn't so relevant for when anger arises. In fact, it might make you feel even more angry. Whereas with the meditation on emptiness, it fits everything. And of course, even without having realized emptiness, we can use the kind of ideas of emptiness like Rinpoche encourages us, because even if you haven't really realized it as such, you can get a kind of idea of it from the teachings, from Rinpoche's explanations and so forth, and you can think about how everything is like an hallucination because of the fact of appearing to exist from its own side but not existing that way, and so on. So the karma is, I don't know if you could really, if this is really exact, but somehow it's the next best thing for somebody who hasn't actually realized emptiness yet. And you can see how it applies to everything. It's not just one or two situations that it applies to. It applies to everything, because there's always some kind of environment. There's always some kind of sensation going on, and so the insight into karma applies to all of that. And just like the correct view has the general effect of gradually wearing away at all of the afflictions. The view of of karma is like that, because if you're seeing everything as the result of your karma, then there's not certainly it's going to help you to overcome the anger at unpleasant situations. With attachment, I don't know how that works. I have to think about that. We're used to hearing how important it is to use the insights of karma to transform problems. In the mind training, it's one of the most important tools. Instead of feeling frustrated and angry and so on, just recognizing this is my karma. I created this. So it's a very, just like the emptiness is like this atom bomb for, smashing all of the delusions. The mindfulness of karma is also something like an atom bomb that smashes these various superstitious minds. Okay, so I mean, there were some other things as well there. I mean, Rinpoche mentioned how when talking about why it's so pointless to retaliate, which means creating more negative karma, if you kill just one insect, it means, oh, that's good, that's very useful. I've got, if Yeah, I think it must. I think I remember actually, but I've written here: if you kill one insect, then for 500 lives you'll, and that's where it finishes. But I think it's you'll be killed, right? It was for 500 lives you'll be killed. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, if you're going to be killed for 500 lives from killing just one insect, then for sure, why wouldn't you be killed for 500 lives for killing a human being? Yes, I'm sure it would work for a human being as well. And then Aryadeva in his 400 stanzas mentions that if you cheat somebody, then for 1,000 lives you'll be cheated. So it's like, what's the point of retaliating when it's almost like it's like, you want to. We have this expression, I know, cutting off your nose to spite your face. It's a bit like you get angry with somebody, so you explode a bomb which kills both of you. It's as ridiculous as that kind of thing. You're going to retaliate. This person has upset you, so you're going to retaliate, and it kind of explodes in your face. Because when you retaliate, you're creating the cause for much, much more suffering than this person could ever inflict on you. Like it says in the Bodhisattva Charvatara, if the whole world were to gang up on you, they couldn't make you take birth in the lower realms, but one moment of anger can do that. Because you would only be born in the lower realms because of your karma. So nobody can make you do anything that doesn't that you don't have the karma for. So the whole world could turn against you, and they couldn't make you take birth in the lower realms. But one moment of anger can, because with one moment of anger you can create the cause. And if you don't purify it, then that's what's going to happen. You're going to be born in the lower realms. So it's so mindfulness of karma is just looking at what's going on, moment by moment, having this real kind of like immediate awareness of everything that's going on in terms of karma as being the result of karma. And thinking how, on top of that, it seems like there's two things going on. So there's that just being aware of everything being the result of karma, and then I guess where there's still the feeling of that there's a sort of tendency to feel like retaliating, thinking about how ridiculous it is, how ridiculous it would be. And of course, also hand in hand with this, you have the awareness of the pleasant things being the result of karma. So the awareness of everything that's unpleasant being the result of negative karma, we need to use that to encourage ourselves to create the karma for more. To avoid creating the karma for more, right? And to purify the karma that we have already created. And when there's the pleasant appearances and pleasant sensations, then using that experience to encourage ourselves to create more karma for that to happen more in the future. Okay? So that's like the basis of the mindfulness meditation that Rinpoche was encouraging us to do. That all makes sense? Okay, so well, it's maybe we'll do our walking meditation first, and it's not like it's some special thing that we're going to do, but I mean, it's now sort of getting on for 10 to 5.